Okay, you're good to go.
Gary, welcome. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be back with you. I'm feeling a little nervous, to tell you the truth, because today's format is different. Today, this is an open session of ask questions, and Elaine is going to try to come up with the best easily transportable starting point for what you ask for. I may have to refer to Conquer the Clutter for details, but I thought I would just make this available so that if something is a pressing question or it's confounding you, that we can at least start a discussion. Because, and as a starting point, I downloaded the 26 questions that were still remaining in the chat box after last week's session. And I found that there are some common themes. So as we start through them, send your questions. And if this is something that really works for people, we could do this next week as well. Let's get the questions, the concerns, this is what's stumping me most. Let's get those out of the way and then progress from there. Okay. All right. So has everybody got their a pen and paper? Okay. So I'm going to give you the URL that I was mentioning for, and I promise you this is not a pitch for the book. The book is doing very well, but Johns Hopkins is giving I don't know whether it's a 40% or a 50% as a Christmas season gift box thing for a few of its books. And so if that would make the difference for you financially to get this, then this book that Sue and I wrote, it's my material, but Sue is the reason why you don't have 264 pages of dangling participles and run-on sentences. This book is meant to be a standalone. There is no help available. How do you start? So with the podcast and the ability to ask your specific questions, this might be the ace in your hand. All right. This book is also the compilation of 19 and a half years of very generous, truthful, brave sharing by hundreds of people who have gone before you. All right. So yes, I have a master's degree, but my clients have taught me so much more about what is useful and not useful when the rubber hits the road in real life. This is real life. Okay. All right, so that URL, Jim, is ahead of me. If you look in the chat box right now, I'll just copy it out for anybody who isn't familiar with the chat box and finding it. https://JHUP books, all one word, press.jhu.edu/title/conquer CONQUER-clutter. All right, so if that's of use to anybody, there you go. All right. The other thing too is that there has been such a demand, and sometimes when the book, do whatever works best for you, first of all, okay? But sometimes when people get the book from Johns Hopkins, what they don't realize is you're paying them in US dollars. All right, so depending on what the exchange rate is, you want to factor that into the deal. Jim and I decided, I've just purchased 200 copies of Conquer the Clutter, so that those people who don't know how to do the duty balancing act can actually order the book from www.hoarding.ca. Now, this is only if you were trying to do it anyway. This is not a pitch to sell the book. All right? Okay. All right. So I don't think I'm going to mention names because I don't have a recording here of whether it was a private message to me or a message to everyone. So if you hear yourself, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to be respectful. So one person asks, what if we are living with someone who challenges our respect for things that we actually have a relationship with? So that might take the form in, what are you thinking? It's just a, what? That's not important. Well, come on, come on, like, get real. It could be understanding challenging, or it could be well-meaning offhanded challenging, or it could be a more aggressive, putting you on the spot, what's wrong with you, challenging, whatever form it takes. Here's what I think the starting point is. First of all, it's assertiveness. All right. Here's the catch with assertiveness, however. Assertiveness is what is needed. All right. However, that your level of assertiveness depends on the level of self-esteem you have. Generally, you can only assert yourself in a comfortable way based on what sense of worthiness you have. And that's why it's so important, if you are being challenged in a way that feels like a slap, all right, or feels like a what's wrong with you, that you look at the fact that, and I learned this doing my placement with Nepean Police Victim Crisis Unit. The only difference between you and the other guy is that you know your stuff. You don't know their stuff, but they've got stuff. Believe me, okay? Everybody's got stuff. And so if somebody's challenging you, the first thing I want you to do is don't go on the defensive. All right, don't go on the defensive. Stay as breathe deeply, stay as neutral, and repeat those words to yourself. I know my stuff. You know my stuff. I don't know your stuff. This is my decision. All right. So some of the ways too that even if you want to assert yourself, you can get a little blocked is not having the language to start. So things like buying yourself some time. I'll think about that. I'll consider it. You always, unless the house is on fire, you always have time, all right, to give yourself a reasonable amount of time to consider. All right, you're worth that. You are entitled to that. I don't see it the same way. Obviously, I don't see it the same way. This has a different meaning for me than you're able to appreciate or understand. So you hand that challenge back to them. You make it about, I hear you. There's something about this you don't understand, and I have no intention of explaining to you. If you're someone who is going to try to put me on the spot and make me feel less than you, no matter how much I love you, you are not someone at this time in the mindset you have that I am going to explain this to you. And just be aware that when somebody puts you on the spot in that way, all right, they may love you. They may be the person in this world who loves you the most, but they are not in a mindset where you can say anything that is likely to change their mindset. All right. So acknowledge that. Don't set yourself up to be defending yourself. I hear you. I understand what you're saying. I don't feel the same way about this, but I will consider whether what you said has any use for me, anything I can use from what you said. You're not making a commitment. All right. Let me just see from my note again. Okay. The other thing too that is sadly lacking in that kind of a situation where someone challenges your respect and doesn't express respect or at least acceptance that you have a relationship with this is there is a tremendous lack of boundaries and limits. Now, sometimes that can happen in intimate relationships where the person just kind of steps over the line, right? Into your territory. That's really for you to decide. How are your boundaries and limits? Now, we've done podcasts on all of these topics, all right? And we will do more drill down intensive podcasts on all of these topics. And one of the things to help you, which is coming, is that Natalia and I who are going to go through all of the podcasts, and we're going to have a title, a subject title that's going to be put with each one of them. I'm sorry, that's not something I thought to do in the beginning when I thought, wouldn't this be a good idea for the very few months that COVID is laying everybody up inside? Who knew it was going to be a new reality? So we're going to play cleanup, and that way you can go back and you can review, because nobody develops healthy boundaries and limits because they read a book or they listen to a podcast. You have to hear it, reflect on it, chew on it, assimilate it, go back. Okay. And it's a step-by-step process. So if you're working on it, have patience with yourself. All right. And in the meantime, when you feel put on the spot, buy yourself some time by saying, I hear you. I'll consider how useful that is for me, but I need to think. And if somebody pushes and says, well, when will you get back to me? Say, well, it's more important that I understand my relationship to these things than that you understand it. Okay. And if they don't get that one, they're not listening. Okay. All right. Next question. For me, an 8, 7, 8, 9, 10 is something. So we talked about how do you know? What are the criteria for 1, 2, 3? That's one category. 1, 2, 3s don't feel anything like 5, 4, 5, 6s. They don't feel anything like 7, 8, 9, 10s. They're very, very different relationships. You feel it differently. Your attraction to that thing is very different. Okay, so 7, 8, 9, 10s, the person was saying, is reflecting here, is something which for me is not useful to me. And I feel a lot of comfort with throwing it out or giving it away. Now, that's not necessarily true for everyone, because sometimes when things get all mixed together, the 1, 2, 3s with the 7, 8, 9, 10s, what I've noticed is that there's a tendency for the 7, 8, 9, 10s to take kind of on a shadow flavor of the most important things that are in there. They all kind of become a harmonized unit. And then it's really hard to figure out. And if you're trying, please don't set yourself up for overload. If you're trying to decide, is this a 1, 2, 3? Is it a 4, 5, 6? Is it a 7, 8, 9, 10? For any of you who are not numerical, the 1, 2, 3s, what you're saying to yourself is, there it is. Or, oh, wow, yeah. Oh, and it's that kind of protective relationship. All right. You feel it differently. When you see it, there's no mistaking it. All right. Let's go to the 7, 8, 9, 10s. They're easier. 7, 8, 9, 10s are those things when you go, is that still here? Huh? Oh, I thought I got rid of that before. Or you're saying something like, there's a lot of stuff and not enough room. I have committed to myself. You can hear how this is going on and you're trying to kind of stick handle the logic. Okay. I promised myself I was going to clear this up. If something's got to go, it's going to be you. Sorry, because it sure isn't going to be the 1, 2, 3s. You're clear. If something's got to go, you know it. That's a different step from you've done it. Okay, you've done it as the next step, but you know it when you see it. And there's likely to be, this is the unfortunate part, more work involved because there's likely to be more 7, 8, 9, 10s. All right, try the easy wins though. When you find them, just separate them out. Separate them out. Okay. If you're going through a pile and you come across, oh, I don't know about you. Just take that and separate it out. That's kind of a first indicator. Now let's go to the 4, 5, 6s, because the 4, 5, 6s is where we dance, basically. All right. I'll just say that in 19 and a half years, I can't remember a situation where the 1, 2, 3s and at least a good many, if not all, a good many of the 4s, we could find a sensible, usable, accessible, permanent place. So try not to worry about the 4s. Try not to worry about those. But for the 5s and 6s, it's hard to tell because they're close to both sides. Okay, it's hard to tell. Take the best example
All right,
of a number 1. Take a best example of a number 1. Take the best example of a number 7, all right, and run it by the piles of 4, 5, 6s. So presumably you've already sorted out the piles as you've gone. You've chosen a chunk of area and you said, okay, today we're going to do the dining room table. And don't try to decide what's going to happen with things right away. If you find those, oh, there it is, the 1, 2, 3s, you take those and you set them aside. All right. As you find 7, 8, 9, 10s, you set those aside. And the 4, 5, 6s, those are what is left. So that running the best example at the same time, okay, the best example of the number 1s, because you can feel it, you can practically taste it. It's such an attractive item, relationship. And the 7s are like, which is it closer to? And if it's closer to, much closer to the 1, then it's probably a 4. Remember what I said about the 4s. We're not going to decide the 4s right now. As many 4s as you can safely store that have meaning for you, they stay. But the closer they are to, it's actually much closer to a 7. Those are the 6s. Take those 6s if you can make yourself and just put them with the 7, 8, 9, 10s. Now you've only got the 5s that are left, and the 5s are hard to decide about. Don't decide about them right now. Don't decide about them right now. They will be their own little pile, their own little area. Let's work on the 7, 8, 9, 10s. And when you clear the 7, 8, 9, 10s, you're going to have a whole lot more space to consider how you actually want to use that space. All right. So does that help people? Okay. Somebody else mentioned a criteria for something being for a 1, 2, 3, a 4, 5, 6, or a 7, 8, 9, 10, which is interesting. This is an interesting way to do it. Is what is that item mine? Does it represent me today moving forward? Or am I just the custodian of it? Do I have a sense of obligation to it? All right. All right. So my question to you is, what makes something? It's good. It's good to have that kinesthetic kind of, yeah, there it is. But it's even better to add the logical, rational part to it. Don't overthink it. Okay. If you have 3 to 4 criteria, that's what makes something a 1, 2, 3, a mine. 3 to 4 criteria that are different. That's what makes it. Actually, it's not mine. So it's not a 1, 2, 3. Whatever it is, it's not a 1, 2, 3. But figure though, don't set yourself up trying to decide that as you pick up one item at a time. You're making your job so much more difficult. All right. That will mentally wear you out. Set those criteria for what makes something a 1, 2, 3 when I find it. And if you don't have a clutter buddy, and I know COVID is depriving a lot of people of friends or family who would be good clutter buddies. We've already talked about what are the characteristics of a good clutter buddy, and they're not as available or they're not available. I get that. Then be your own clutter buddy for now, but do it right. Set what those criteria are and keep it right on a little cue card. 1, 2, 3s. Okay, I want to keep you. Do you meet these criteria? And if you don't meet these criteria, you're probably not a 1, 2, 3. Don't talk yourself into it. It's okay that it's another category. What makes something a 7, 8, 9, 10? The more tired you get, the more it's going to feel like that, the 12 through 15 minutes, that last 3, 4 minutes, you may, as you're kind of working your way through that, it may be like walking through mud up to your knees. You might be tired. The more tired you get, which is another reason why you don't do marathons, is it's so much harder to make a decision. But please never, ever make the decision about, I can't imagine life without it. In a perfect world, 4, 5, 6 is it in a perfect world, I want to keep you all, but only some of you can stay. And the 7, 8, 9, 10s, what are you still doing here? No, you know what? I need space here. I need space for my 1, 2, 3, 4s. Okay, I can't even find half of them. I'm sorry, but you have to go. All right, those 3 categories. Get those criteria solid, not in your mind, because your mind will play tricks with you. Write them down. Now you are making yourself accountable for having forethought, and check out, which criteria does this thing meet? And that's the grouping it's in. Okay? Okay. So for some people, they said, and there were a number of people, that 1, 2, 3s for that person is something really difficult to replace and gives me joy, or it's really useful when I see it. Okay, there's a little bit of a catch in that. Really difficult to replace, right? Watch the really difficult to replace, because the first and foremost question you need to ask yourself is this me today moving forward. From a sentimental point attachment, from an aesthetic, I just love it. It's like when I look at it, I just go, whoa. Or from an intrinsic, it is actually useful for me. It's not just a useful thing that, you know, philosophically, I might be able to use. Anybody would appreciate having this, or it's the last of its kind. What is that thing actually going to add to your life? Here's something we all need to keep in mind. Our things serve us. They are there to serve us, to enhance and enrich our lives today, moving forward. That can encompass some things from the past. That we do not serve our things. We do not serve our things. Our life force, if this was your last day on earth, and for some people it will be, none who are here, but for some people it will be. One day that day will come. Is this the way you want to spend it? Taking care of this thing that has theoretical use? I had to bump my head really hard a number of times because I'm a stubborn Irish woman. And this lesson did not come easily to me, but I pass it on for whatever use you can make of it. I heard somebody one time say, now it was an important meeting, and I was respectful of it, but it was not a concept that I was familiar with. All right. And that was, the universe provides what you need, and the universe can be your God, your creator, your higher power. Call whatever name, use whatever name is in your heart. The universe provides what you need when you need it, in the order you need it, if you're awake and listening. So there's some responsibility there to be awake and listening. All right. And I remember thinking, what a lovely thought. But I hadn't actually had an experience with that. And then I guess I was meant to learn that lesson, but I had to really bump my head on it. I had a number of clients who had particular needs and no money. And they really needed, they were moving to, in one case, it was an elderly gentleman who had to give his cat away because going into the retirement home, they would accept cats, but he really couldn't manage the cat the way he had been living with it. And none of the furniture in the apartment, when we could get to it, there might have been 3 pieces that could convert over to the space in this, and he had a really nice room. So I was looking and I thought, oh, you know what? And he was a really social guy. He really liked to have people in. He was just a real social butterfly. So moving to a new group of people, that was an important piece of his whole emotional balance, right? If you're social, you want to remain social. You're in a whole new group of people. You want to make those friends. And when they invite you in, you want that social reciprocity. Right? So I remember thinking, oh, first of all, you know what? It's one big room. He's going to have something to cover the bed. Like you can have an unmade bed, but hopefully you've pulled a bed spread up over it if you're inviting company in. And I thought, wow, yeah. And then I looked over and he loved to read. And I thought he needs a place to read. And there was a lovely window right there. And I thought, wow, how are we going to find that? First of all, nothing from the apartment's going to fit. So I thought, oh, it's got to be this length. I measured. It can't be longer than that. There isn't room. And it's got to have the arm on that side. It can't have arms on both sides. There is not room for a place for a buddy to come in and have a beer and sit, or 2 buddies and a chair. He can have a chair, but the chair is going to be the chair from his desk. What are you going to do? Socialize one person at a time with a lineup outside your room? That is not going to work. This has to work. And so I thought, oh gosh. And the arm of whatever it was going to be, if it had an arm, had to be on one particular side. It had to be on one side because that was the side the light came in, so he could get out the other side. I thought, this is never going to work. And the one thing he could bring from his apartment was a roll top desk, which was just a treasure to him. Okay. Well, and I also had a family whose 3 children had been first under supervision and then apprehended by Children's Aid. Now, they could come home on the weekend and the family was working really, really hard to get things fixed so that they could have their kids back. They didn't have any beds. They didn't have any toys. The house was badly, badly cluttered. And so that client, again, part of the living room had to be sectioned off so that we could set up a kids area. Well, they didn't have any money to do that. And I thought, okay, if you know that the universe will provide, this would be a really good time to start. So on the Saturday, I had 3 or 4 clients. I swear this is the day I had to learn this lesson, and I have remembered it. I went to my first client, and we were trying to solve the family room, which was something had to go. And I remember looking at this love seat. It was like a lazy boy love seat with a chaise on one end, thinking, that comes apart. I wonder how long it is. Inside voice, okay? And I thought, oh God, if there's any way, please, please let her decide, because I can't prompt it. Please let her decide to let that chaise go. And she's measuring, I'm measuring, her husband's measuring, and she said, I always hated that chaise. Oh, Eureka. So I said, I said, do you have any idea what you'd like to do with it? Because I can't profit from this, right? And my inside voice is saying, oh, please, please, please. And she said, well, do you know anybody? Because it's a perfect, like it was a lovely lazy boy chaise. And I said, well, actually, I just need to measure. So we measured. It was perfect. And the arm was on the right side. That thing was out on the deck before you could say Jiminy Cricket. And Steve came and got it and delivered it and installed it. And at the same time, oh, I'm telling you, it was like, Elaine, you got to learn this lesson today. Whack, whack, whack. We opened an ottoman. I said, because we had to decide, was the ottoman occupying too much space? Opened the ottoman. And there were bedspreads in it. And I thought, and I forgot to tell you, the color of the rug was an ungodly green in this room. And I thought, nothing's going to go with that. And it can't be flowers. This guy was a he-man. It cannot be flowers. Okay, this is not going to work. And she said, oh, I don't need all of these. Oh my goodness, did I just win the lottery? And tried to keep my face straight. Okay, serene. And I said, well, I do, you know, the person for the chaise, and I explained the problem. And she said, well, do any of these, because I don't have a particular, I mean, I need 1 or 2 for the spare bed, but I don't need all of these. Would this one work? Well, but the 4th one down, she pulls out, it's a perfect fern leaf coverlet. And she said, is there anything else he needs? I said, oh, well, the likelihood of the only other thing I can think of. I said, he doesn't have a lamp. There's no room for a floor lamp. He doesn't have a lamp for this roll top desk. She had a banker's lamp that was in the pile to go to donation. And it got better from there. All right. They had gone out to buy, who knew that there was such a thing? A kitty litter genie, like a diaper genie. Okay. And I said, yeah, he's going to have to get rid of the cat again because he cannot bend over to keep the litter, like, and it's smelling of ammonia. He's going to get like in trouble. And she said, oh, isn't that a coincidence? Not a coincidence. I would have said coincidence last week, but now I've learned the whack, whack, whack lesson. Um, they had lost in the pile their kitty litter genie. They just bought a new one. It was still in the box. She said, we found it before you got here. So I was going to return it, but I don't care. And these people had more than enough means. So I said, thank you so much. The next client I'm going to, 21 years before, she had had her child apprehended by Children's Aid. And we were working in the basement. And there was a big pile of stuff that we were working toward getting to. And we got to it, we pulled it up, and there is this IKEA toy organizer loaded with toys, and all the boxes behind this pile were her son's toys. And I thought, could I be this lucky? Maybe she's going to want to hold on to them though, because there could be unfinished business here. So I didn't tell her about the family. I just worked with her, and she said, you know, it's time to let it go. She said, he's back in my life as an adult. And these are wonderful memories, but they're also a mixed blessing for me because they're a symbol that he had to be taken away because I couldn't manage. And so I think it's time to let go of the sadness, and it's time to let go of feeling like at that point in his life, I was a failure. This is a reminder more of failing than of that loving kind of time. So I said, I just happen to have a family who's in exactly the same situation, and we're trying to set up a children's area. Speed dial Steve, my crew. Steve, can you come and get this? Because this lady is more than willing to donate. So as we're setting it up, my crew are setting this up. We're also trying to set up the bedrooms, but the bedrooms had to be set up in a particular way because of space. Do you know that we needed a bunk bed, over the bunk bed, and one of the crew had one of those in their basement that they were trying to find a home for. And all we had to do was to ask Children's, and bureaus came out of the woods suddenly. And I thought, okay, Elaine, you've learned that lesson. This is not a coincidence. So that's why I'm taking up so much of our time telling you that when you find something that is a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, please hear this story. This is not just a story. These are people's lives, and that generosity and the coincidence of I'm ready to part with it. Or I don't need to keep it. And I'm sort of on that cusp. Where's the perfect home? You don't have to worry about the perfect home. I swear the perfect home will find those things. And here's the pity. You don't get to see the face of the lives you've changed, but you do change lives every day. I have 2 sheds here that I had built for donations, which turned out to be a lucky coincidence because I now can keep them for a month before they go off to where we donate things. And the lives that are changed, I swear, these are real lives, and they really do make a difference. Okay, so that was the long way round to try to let you know that whatever you don't need, and so there's a corollary to that as well that I learned, and that is that if you let something go, project people, I'm really speaking to the project people here. If you let things go that you bought proactively, hoping and planning, and that's kind of gotten ahead of the space you have to store it, when you're ready to need that thing, all right, you can let it go now. Because when you're ready to need that thing, there is nothing on the face of the earth that is so rare. There will be something that will be equivalent or better, all right, that will work for you then. Things have a way of being available when you're ready for them. And what I suspect is true is that they've always been ready. Because remember, the universe provides what you need when you need it in the order you need it. If you're awake and listening, you have your antenna up. I believe that we don't find those things that we need in a timely way now because they suddenly miraculously appeared. We're looking differently. Somehow our antenna fine-tuned and we look differently. They were probably always there. We just weren't looking for them. So if you're convincing yourself that, oh, I have to hold on to it because it's so rare, test that. It probably is rare, but it's not the only thing. It is not the only thing that can meet that need. All right. There's something else out there that is equivalent or even better. Just trust the process. Save yourself having to bump your head on it the way I did, because that was a humbling lesson. Like, Elaine, you can't control things. You can't make things happen. There is a plan here, okay, and you just need to be awake, listening, and working the plan. Okay, so another person said, and this was a really common thing, but I think it was a common thing among people who are handy, creative, dedicated to a particular type of thing or project. They're project people. They have what I call the engineer's brain. And so this person said, I repurpose many things. Others remain waiting to be looked at and considered. It's exhausting. It's tedious. And it's boring because it never ends. All right. She says, excuses I know, but powerful. So my question is for those people who are stuck with a lot of product from projects, what I recommend, and I think I've told you before, is we generally all have enough room for one project in the works and the product for it, and one in the wings that we start to kind of survey the horizon for what we're going to need. That's probably for most people a safe bet, okay? However, I asked this person to talk to me a little bit about repurposing, because there's another way to get trapped with the repurposing. Repurposing and not being wasteful is a good thing. All right, let's not kid ourselves. But what I tell myself when I repurpose books and the library doesn't want them, as they so often don't, even to hold, there's only so many they can hold for their book sale. That's something we tell ourselves. This is not such a gift. This is excess to need for me, and I want a place that's acceptable to me to send it, so I don't have to feel that I made a mistake or it got wasted. All right. What I tell myself is, now some of you may have to sit down for this because this may be new and painful. What I tell myself is, when I rip the cover off the book, all right, because it needs to be garbaged, it can't be recycled, it's either plasticized or something, or it's cardboard, and I take the insides of the book and I recycle them, I'm actually providing material for the next Tim Hortons cup, for the next book. All right. It does serve a purpose. So what are you saying to yourself that you need to hold on to those things? It isn't about the value of them usually. It can be, but not usually. It isn't about the importance or the uniqueness of them. It's about your comfort level with making final decisions that there's no going back from. There is no perfect decision. I have even let things go and gone, oh, this is one for the podcast. And 3 weeks later, I needed it. And you know what? It turned out it wasn't the only one in the universe. And it was easy to get another like it, or sometimes better, like the popcorn maker I told you about. Okay. It's about our comfort. The only barrier is our comfort level. When we do recycle, so long as we don't recycle beyond our ability to keep our spaces safe, that has to be our limit, or our ability to physically get it out, all right? So that it actually goes to recycling. So long as we don't do that, it's going somewhere where it will be used for what is needed, not our superimposing an idea of acceptable use over it. It will be used. It won't end up. If you rip the guts out of a book and you recycle the insides of it, blasphemy, and you garbage or whatever is acceptable for recycling, the cover of it, it is getting used, but it's getting used for today's purpose. Don't get stuck on there is an acceptable way or only one acceptable outcome that is possible. You're superimposing over your need on a universe that has its own plan. All right? Let it go and trust. All right? Okay. What else have we got here? Yes. Photos, taking photos of things as you're cued or triggered, or they're interesting to you. You don't need to keep them, but you probably would keep them if you didn't have a recollection of it. Use your smartphone. Take a picture. Download the pictures to an external hard drive so you don't use up all your data and memory, okay? When you've got more than 3 external hard drives of photos, we need to talk, okay? However, just find a way to make it happen. You can do it. Don't get stuck. Literally 15 minutes a day, yes? And the people, I don't know that it is only useful for individuals who have ADHD and some level of ADHD and ADD. I don't know if that's true. I agree with the notation the person put. That does seem to be a common factor. But if you don't have ADD or ADHD to any degree and it's useful for you, do it. Chances are it'll help you over that hump, because the hardest part is the moment of decision. When you've let the thing go and you've got a picture of it, I've done it. I have taken more pictures of my cute little Frenchies and the clever things they do until my data ran out, all right? And then I went back and I thought, maybe I need to be a bit more discriminating about what the definition and criteria for cute is, all right? We all have to do it to some degree. If it helps you in the moment over the hump, do it. You can always go back and realize, you know what? Over time, I've changed my relationship to Frenchie Cute. I have changed my relationship to that clever saying, or that whatever it is that gives you that, oh, no, I should hold on. Oh, that moment, okay? Help yourself over that hump. Making the decision is the hardest part. And there will be usually very, very, very few things that down the road you say to yourself, what was I thinking to let that go? All right. Okay. Yes, taking pictures. So taking pictures of your progress before and after, I got a lot of feedback on that. That does help because we need the reminders that we are making progress, particularly when the piles feel never ending and overwhelming. All right? Give yourself, what do I need? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make a difference? Those are the 3 questions you ask yourself in any situation. What do I need right now? Where is it? And how do I get enough of it to make the difference I need in this moment? You don't have to solve it out to the horizon. Just right now. Okay? Okay, we've got about 10 more minutes. One person said, I have so many things. What are the 1, 2, 3s? Okay, what are the 4, 5, 6s? What are the 7, 8, 9, 10s? And where do they go? So nobody can tell you what is a 1, 2, 3. We've talked enough about that. That's your choice. But if you're having difficulty, maybe the first step for anybody in this boat is to find a place that you're not occupying that safety corridor, okay? Can't block entrance and exits, can't be near heat sources. Dedicate a space where you can put up either big boxes, big bags, whatever it is. And as a first run, go and find either the 1, 2, 3s and put them not in their designated spot when the amount of pile is overwhelming you. Put those together, okay? And reflect on, was it a first choice 1, 2, 3? So when I'm looking at it consistently, because one of our other participants said, it has to consistently give me that rush, that moment, okay? Reflect on it. Some of them may make it to the 4, 5, 6s in a little while. Don't worry about working this in order. Find the 7, 8, 9, 10s, take those and put those there. Now, here's where we break out into 2 different types of people, and never the twain shall meet. All right. One group wants to make, and is able, that's their driving force. They want to make a decision in the moment and not have to come back to that space. So when they pick this up, okay, they want to decide about it because they never want to have to think about it again. And so they struggle with, okay, is this something to keep? Is this something that can easily go? Is it in the middle and I need to consider it? Well, then I stick with it and I figure it out right now in the moment, even if it takes 20 minutes and then it's done. Those people are very different from the other group. The other group needs that they are what I call considerers. Okay. And there's nothing wrong. If you are a process person, respect it. First and foremost, there is nothing wrong with you that you can't overcome. But if you try to be somebody you're not by using a process that doesn't work for you, is it any surprise that it builds up? If you're a process person, then, and you're having trouble deciding, you are the people who need to have those criteria right at hand on cheat sheets, on cue cards, all right? And, or maybe you need to write them out and post it on a wall with big boxes underneath. It has to be this. It has to meet these criteria. And then it goes in that pile. All right. And then before you can make a decision about, now some things may be easier than others. The 10s probably can go, the 9s probably can go relatively easily. Usually, not always. When you look at your list of criteria and you look at the things that you go, you know, I really don't need 48 teapots. I know that here, I know that here. So which ones are the 1, 2, 3, the criteria? Well, clearly those 6 or 8, okay? And if you choose to keep 6 or 8 teapots, that's your right. However, there's always a domino effect. Space and time is finite. It means that if you keep 24 of the 48 teapots, which is your right, all right, it means that the space that the others take up is not available for as many 4s, all right? Or the piles of the 7, 8, 9, 10s that remain that don't get processed creates a hazard. You see how it's not an independent objective. It's relational to how much space do you have? How much of that space do you want to dedicate to this type of thing? But this other group of people, they need to set things out that are tougher decisions, and they need to give themselves about no less than 4 days usually, no more than, say, a week of walking by and either, yes, talking to this thing to say goodbye, particularly if it's a sentimental attachment, all right? Here we go. Just walk by it, consider it, look at it. Consider, does it meet the criteria for a 1, 2, 3 or a 4? Doesn't really, and I really want to keep all those. And it's like coffee percolating, okay? And you come up with you know, it's time to let it go. And the reason that's so important is that you're making a decision that you can live with, all right? It's I can live with it decisions that we want. Does that mean that you're happy about it? Maybe not. I am not happy about having to get rid of that dining room table set, okay? But I'm at peace with it because I give myself something that I know is true on the other side of the scale. So much of our life happened around that table. Important stuff, poignant stuff, stuff that can't be replaced. However, this time in my life is about something else, okay? And I want this time in my life. What is this time in your life for? What do you want most out of this time in your life? And let's go get it. And let's trust that whatever has to go to make that possible, we'll find the home, we'll find the use that will be part of the plan. All right? There is a plan. It's not always ours, but there is a plan. And we can be part of that plan by accepting that sometimes we just need to focus on what today, moving forward, what are the opportunities that I will miss if I spend it endlessly sorting clutter? What are you going to miss? Don't miss it. Don't miss it. All right, that's your life. And there's nothing that we have other than the people in our lives, sometimes our pets, they behave themselves, that is worth 1 day of our life. Okay? So I'm going to wind up for there. Now, I have saved these questions, and if there are any others, get them down. I'm going to leave the window open. Write down any questions that you have. I'll look and see if they are an overlap, we can spend the next, if you find it useful, we can spend the next podcast going over those questions until we clear them up, because I'm here and I've made this free of charge so that I can be useful to you, so that all the people who have gone before you, who have taught me what works and what doesn't, I can pass that on to you. So send me your questions. I'm going to leave the chat box open, and I will see you next week. You take care. I'm going to exit now. Okay, but I'm going to leave the chat box open. Bye, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next week. Jim, did you hear that? We're going to leave the chat box open for a bit so people can send their questions.
Yeah, but if you leave, that will, if you're the host.
No, I'm not ending. I'm walking away from the screen, but I'm leaving it open as though I'm here.
Okay, so before you leave, you'll want to save the chat the way I showed you earlier to make sure that you get all the questions, including the ones private to you.
Did I not do that already?
But if you did, anything that comes in after you save it won't be there.
Oh, see chat. Okay, chat saved.
Yeah, but it saves up to this point. So if somebody puts one in 5 minutes, you won't see it if we close.
Will it get added if I go back?
You would have to come back and save the chat again.
That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to walk away. We're going to leave it open. I'll close it down in, say, 15 minutes or in 10 minutes because I have something I have to do in 15, and save it at that point. Okay? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So we're leaving the meeting up then.
We're leaving the meeting up. Yeah.
Okay.